Thursday was Tillerson's first meeting with all members of the 10-nation Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Tillerson called on ASEAN countries to fully implement UN sanctions on Pyongyang and deny the DPRK what he called the revenue streams it has used to advance its provocative programs. Tillerson also stressed Washington's security and economic commitment to the region.
Officials say they have new evidence that North Korea and Iran's militaries are sharing information about their missile programs. Earlier this week, Iran tried and failed to launch a missile from underwater in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. defense officials say it was apparently the first time Iran attempted to do that, and they say the submarine Iran used in the launch was based on a North Korean design. U.S. officials say missiles Iran launched in January and last summer were also similar to North Korean models. Let's bring in now General Jack Keane, former U.S. Army Vice Chief of Staff and a Fox News military analyst. General, thank you for joining us today. How concerned are you about these two in particular getting together, and is this evidence strong in your point of view?
Oh yeah, overwhelmingly so. This is a 20-plus year close relationship. The Iranians are actually following the North Korean playbook about as close as you possibly can. The North Koreans in the 90s negotiated with us and others, lying to us about their nuclear intentions. Meanwhile, they had secret sites and they were in fact developing a nuclear weapon. And then in 2003, they declared that they had it. The Iranians were doing very much the same thing, negotiating with us, telling us that they're only building nuclear power for energy, not for weapons. They had secret sites. What happened in Iran, we found those secret sites because of some informants, and they were exposed. But they follow the exact playbook. Their missiles are exact replicas, by and large, of North Korean missiles. Their nuclear technology is North Korean technology. They both want to have nuclear weapons, to be sure. The Iranians have never given up on that. They both want ballistic missiles, and they want to be able to fire them from the surface and also from the subsurface. And North Korea is leading the technology and engineering effort on all of that.
You know, General, the American public has been told to believe that there are so many imminent threats. You know, first it was the Islamic State savages. Talk to me, if you will, about the urgency now and the reporting that we're also witnessing in this era about Iran and North Korea.
Well, Iran, I believe, is a major threat in the Middle East, much more so than radical Islamists, who clearly are a threat. We see the evidence of that all the time as they run around the world killing people. But the Iranians are a much more serious threat. They have conventional military, they have missiles, they're developing ballistic missiles, and they want a nuclear weapon. And according to the deal that the previous administration made, they are likely to get nuclear weapons unless this administration puts a stop to it. So, yes, and that is a major concern for us, is the Iranian threat in the Middle East. And obviously the North Korean threat in the Far East and our bases and our allies is also a major threat to us.
Are you confident that President Trump gets this? Because I want to talk with you about the news that he dropped, and that is that he's getting ready to make his first trip as president overseas, and he is in fact going to the Middle East, the very place you're talking about right now. How does that inform you about the confidence that you may have in this president moving forward?
Well, first of all, he absolutely gets the danger of both of these threats. All of his national security advisors have been speaking out about these threats. And obviously, the president put the military option back on the table and is negotiating with the Chinese. That's all a plus. This trip to the Middle East is a big deal because he is making an unequivocal, loud statement that the Middle East is a priority for me. And he's going to make a statement that I've got Israel's back and I've got the Sunni Arabs back in the Middle East. And we're going to stand up against radical Islam and we're going to counter the Iranians. That is not the position of the previous administration. That is going to be so very well received in the Middle East by our allies. The Israelis doubted the previous administration's commitment. The Sunnis were absolutely convinced that the United States had moved away from their previous security commitment.
What about the president's authorization of this military to do what it needs to do? I have to let you go quickly, but I can't do so without asking you about that. What is the difference between what we have now and what we previously had?
It's about trust and confidence in our commanders to do things within their conflict area. Let them make the decisions. They don't have to ask permission. They've got the resources. They got the capabilities. They got great troops. Leave them alone. Judge them by their results. Couldn't be better.
All right. General Jack Keane, thank you for joining us on this fine Friday, sir, with your expertise.
Approved new sanctions against North Korea. The measure comes as the U.S. is watching that nation and Iran for their development of missile technology. National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin reports tonight from the Pentagon. It appears those two nations are working together.
Non-proliferation experts have long suspected North Korea and Iran are sharing expertise when it comes to their rogue missile programs.
The very first missiles we saw in Iran were simply copies of North Korean missiles. And over the years, we've seen photographs of North Korean and Iranian officials in each other's countries, and we've seen all kinds of common hardware and design approaches.
When Iran tested a ballistic missile in late January, the Pentagon said it was based on North Korean design. Last summer, Iran conducted another missile launch similar to a North Korean Musadon, the most advanced missile Pyongyang has tested to date. North Korea's Taepodong missile looks almost identical to Iran's Shahab missile.
In the past, we would see things in North Korea and they would show up in Iran. In recent years, we've seen some small things appear in Iran first and then show up in North Korea. And so that raises the question of whether the trade, which started off mostly as North Korea to Iran, has started to reverse.
Tuesday, Iran tried to test a cruise missile from a midget submarine in the Strait of Hormuz, raising eyebrows at the Pentagon. The launch failed, but the submarine is a North Korean design. Only two countries in the world deployed that kind of sub, North Korea and Iran. Midget subs operate in shallow waters where they can be very sneaky. In fact, a North Korean midget sub sank a South Korean frigate in 2010. During testimony last week, Admiral Harry Harris, the head of American forces in the Pacific, warned the U.S. has no land-based short or medium-range missiles because it is a signatory to the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces, or INF Treaty of 1987, which Iran and North Korea are not.
We are being taken to the cleaners by countries that are not signatories to the INF.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is trying to garner support for more UN sanctions against North Korea. He met with Asian leaders today at the State Department.
The Federation of American Scientists has documented since the 1980s how Iranian oil and cash helped North Korea make progress with its missile program. Now some of those advances are showing up back in Iran. Chris?
Jennifer Griffin reporting from the Pentagon. Jennifer, thank you.